You won't believe what this HOA president did until it happened to my daughter. And what she didn't know, I was watching. And I'm not just any dad. It was just another long day, 14 hours straight in the field, and I was finally pulling into our driveway when I saw something that made my blood run cold. My 14-year-old daughter, Ava, was held against our front gate, her back wedged into the metal, her shaking hands wrapped around the vest of her service dog, Beacon. And who was doing that? Our HOA president, Mrs. Holloway. What she was doing wasn't wrong. It was criminal. Wait until you hear what happened when I let her in on a little secret about who I actually am. Beacon, trained to assist Ava with her epilepsy, whimpered helplessly as the woman blocked their path. No dogs in common areas, Mrs. Holloway barked, jabbing her finger into Ava's chest. I don't care what your dad told you. Your fake service vest doesn't mean anything. Neighbors stood around observing, some worried, none brave enough to intervene. My daughter, tears in her eyes, was able to speak in a tiny trembling voice. Please, Beacon is a service animal. The Fair Housing Act protects. Mrs. Holloway interrupted her, louder now, more furious. Don't you dare spout laws at me. I've been a paralegal for 23 years. That vest's an internet scam. She believed she had the authority until I appeared behind her. Quietly, calmly, I inserted myself. Remove your hands from my daughter. Now. My tone was icy. Calm. The tone my officers recognize as meaning something is going to go down. She turned, startled. But when she saw me, her assurance came back. Mr. Riley, what impeccable timing. I was just explaining to your daughter, Patricia, I cut in, purposely addressing her by her first name. You have 3 seconds to get away from my child, or I'll arrest you. Assault on a minor, violation of the Americans with Disabilities Act. Do I need to continue? She froze, her eyes wide. Arrest me for something? You can't unbutton my jacket, showing my badge and sidearm. Assistant Commissioner Thomas Riley, Metropolitan Police. And I just saw you push my disabled daughter. You ought to have seen her face. Shock, fear, desperation. I didn't know you were a police officer, she stuttered. That doesn't matter, I told her, voice like steel. What does matter is you just broke federal law. I looked at the neighbors. Mrs. Patel, would you mind taking Ava and Mr. Guzman? Thank you for recording. I'll need that video. Her face went pale. Wait, there's a video. Oh yes, I replied, and more where that came from. I've recorded every sniveling letter, every complaint, every harassment. Tonight you took it to physical assault on a child, on a service dog trained with more than 1,500 hours. That vest you ridiculed registered with the Department of Justice. Beacon has saved Ava's life 3 times, and just like that, the bully had no more words. Around us, neighbors began to speak up. She's been harassing that poor girl for months, one said. It's about time someone stood up to her, another added. I raised a hand. Let's keep it respectful. Mrs. Holloway, go home. You'll be hearing from the HOA board, the police, and my lawyer. In that order. She turned, heels clicking, retreating into the night. No more fake authority, no more power. But the actual heartbreak was waiting for me inside. Ava was huddled on the couch, Beacon's head resting in her lap, her little hands still shaking. Mrs. Patel had brought her tea and left us alone quietly. I was so sorry, Dad, she said, on the brink of tears. I was just walking Beacon before dinner. I wrapped my arm around her. You have nothing to be sorry for, because the only one who ought to be sorry is the person who believed that she could threaten a child who has a disability and get by with it. She beat up my daughter once. She paid for it. But what did she do next? Even I didn't anticipate. Ava lay on the couch, softly petting Beacon's soft fur. Her eyes were reflective, far away. What Mrs. Holloway did, it wasn't only wrong, Dad. It was mean. Why does she even dislike us? We never did anything to her. It was something I had wondered about more times than I could recall. Since the day we moved into this supposedly exclusive neighborhood, Patricia Holloway set herself on fault-finding with us. Perhaps it was because we didn't conform to her idea of us, the single father, the daughter with a disability. Or perhaps something more. Sometimes, I answered slowly, people are scared of what unsettles them. Your epilepsy, Beacon, those things, just remind her that life isn't scripted, and some people can't deal with that. Ava glanced up, blunt honesty slicing through. That's a stupid reason to be cruel. I couldn't help the smile that spread across my face. Yeah, it really is. But cruel wasn't quite sufficient for Mrs. Holloway. She overstepped, and now the repercussions were just starting. The following morning, I placed a few calls from my home office. Gentle, deliberate calls. By the end of the week, dominoes were tumbling. The HOA board hastily called an emergency meeting, and the room was filled to capacity, the largest ever at our community center. Purple epilepsy awareness ribbons adorned the room, pinned to shirts and jackets in tacit support of my daughter. Board Chairman Douglas Wilson greeted the meeting with words I never thought I would hear in public. What was done to Ava Riley and her service dog doesn't reflect who we are. After considering the videos, statements, and federal laws, the board has reached a unanimous conclusion. All eyes directed themselves to the front row, where Patricia Holloway sat rigid and stone-faced. Effective immediately, Patricia Holloway is relieved as HOA president, Wilson declared. In addition, the board will cooperate completely with any legal action the Riley family may take. The room exploded in subdued but forceful applause. But Wilson wasn't done. We're also requiring disability awareness training for every board member. And lastly, we're establishing a new accessibility committee. And Ava, we'd love to have you join it. That sit-down wasn't justice. It was a watershed moment. Subsequently, neighbor after neighbor came to us apologizing. Mr. Guzman gave me a flash drive filled with video evidence of 6 additional occasions Mrs. Holloway had accosted Ava. 3 weeks went by, and the system had its voice. The district attorney pressed charges: assault on a child, harassment, and violations of federal disability codes. She felt she was above the law until the law caught up. The judge didn't spare her. A $5,000 fine, 200 hours of community service at a local disability center, a whole year's probation, mandatory therapy payments for Ava, and a court order: keep 100 feet away from Ava unless Ava preferred otherwise. Her fall made the local paper. They referred to it as a milestone case for disability rights. But to us, it was merely another step on the road to recovery. But then, something occurred that nobody could have anticipated. That night, Ava stood in the kitchen doorway. "Dad," she said, "I've been thinking about that accessibility committee. I want to do it, not just for us, but for anyone else who might live here. What if a kid in a wheelchair moves in someday?" I felt something shift in that moment, not just pride, but awe. After everything, my daughter was thinking of others first. "If you're up for that responsibility," I said to her, "I've got your back. Always." She nodded with a quiet strength. "I'm ready." A month later, I saw the evidence of it. Ava was walking Beacon along the same route where Holloway once pinned her. But this time she wasn't alone. Walking beside her was Caroline, a bright 9-year-old who used arm crutches because of cerebral palsy. They'd become instant friends. The accessibility committee was making a difference already. Smooth pavement replacing gravel paths, ramps onto the clubhouse, braille signs everywhere in the neighborhood. The community was changing, thanks to Ava. But then a familiar vehicle pulled up down the road. My body involuntarily tightened. The window went down. Mrs. Holloway leaned out. "Excuse me," she said softly. Ava stopped. Her stance was relaxed but guarded. "Yes, Mrs. Holloway?" I began moving towards them, not knowing her plan, but keeping my distance, allowing Ava to stand firm. "I owe you an apology," Holloway continued, "not only for what transpired that day, but for everything leading up to it." Ava said nothing. She waited. "I've been doing the classes the HOA mandated," Holloway went on, "and I've got some medical news. The doctors tell me I have early onset Parkinson's. In a few years, I'll likely need assistance too." Something in her tone was different, gentler, honest, perhaps even scared. Ava's expression shifted. "Sorry to hear that," she said softly. Mrs. Holloway spotted Caroline. "Is this your friend?" "Yes," Ava replied. "This is Caroline. She just moved into the blue house on Maple Court." Mrs. Holloway smiled actually. "Welcome to the neighborhood. You've already met our best resident." Caroline blinked in confusion, but Ava flushed a little. Then Holloway looked down at the pavement under their feet. "The pavement looks much better. It wasn't a complete redemption, but it was a beginning. And sometimes, that's all you need. People like her never change," I once used to think, but my daughter disproved me. "You're doing good work." Mrs. Holloway had murmured before leaving in her car. Ava and Caroline left standing there, awestruck. That evening, Ava reported it to me. Do you think she's really changed, Dad? I paused, thinking. Sometimes life forces people to see through someone else's eyes, and that changes things. Her diagnosis? It probably made her realize she'll need help too someday. Ava nodded slowly. I'm still angry about what she did, but I'm also kind of glad she might finally understand. 6 months later, our community unveiled something extraordinary, a new all-accessible playground, the first such one in our county. Ava made a few words during the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Her voice was solid, confident, and purpose-filled. Differences aren't a bad thing, she told the crowd. Beacon proudly perched at her side. They're just different roads to the same place. Belonging. The crowd listened in stunned quiet for a second, then erupted in warm, genuine applause. As the people socialized by the refreshments, I saw Mrs. Holloway standing alone across the room, observing the children at play. Her hand shook a little as she smoothed hair behind her ear, a subtle indication of her illness. Ava saw it too. She paused. Then, with that characteristic feeling of bravery, she approached. Would you like to join us for some lemonade, Mrs. Holloway? The older woman was taken aback. After all I did, why on earth would you want me there? Ava readjusted Beacon's vest, something she always did while collecting her thoughts. Because it's hard to keep holding on to anger, she told her bluntly, and because one day you may need someone to be kind to you when you're hurting. Consider this practice. Practice for both of us. Something softened in Mrs. Holloway's face. The edge gave way to something softer. Real. I'd like that. Thank you. As they headed toward the drink table, I hung back, heart full. My daughter was entitled to remain angry, but she was opting for something more difficult. Compassion. She was steering the very person who hurt her toward healing, not because Holloway earned it, but because Ava recalled her own humanity. I'd been a police officer for decades. My work had shown me how to punish. But on that day, Ava showed me something more. Justice without mercy leaves everyone scarred. The woman who had slammed my daughter into a gate was now being given a second chance, led not by fear, but by grace. And in Ava's silent show of strength, I saw something more powerful than any jury verdict. At other times, the bravest person isn't the one who does battle. It's the one who extends a hand, not only to their past tormentor, but to an entire community declaring, we can be better than this. Weeks passed before I caught Ava on our porch, drawing in her journal as Beacon slept at her feet. What are you creating? I asked, sitting down next to her. A buddy system, she said, flipping the page toward me, for new kids with disabilities who move here, so they'll always have someone who gets it. I smiled, stunned by how far we'd come. Mrs. Holloway's helping, Ava added casually. I blinked. She is. She's competent at planning. Her hands tremble more these days. Yesterday, she could not twist open her water bottle during our meeting, so I helped her. No issue. That's how it is when one needs assistance. And in that instant, I grasped something I did not before. The woman who had once left my daughter helpless was now facing her own helplessness. And Ava, far from gloating in that turnabout, was quietly demonstrating to her how community was supposed to work. I'm proud of you, I said with a simplicity I didn't feel. Ava smiled. I learned from the best, but in my own heart I knew better. She had been the teacher all along, and while I had demanded justice in the form of punishment, she had discovered something more powerful. Justice in transformation. That gate, where she had once been held captive by fear, now served as a testament to growth. Hand-painted with bright handprints from kids in the neighborhood in a community art project. 2 of them stood side by side among them. One was Ava's, the other, Mrs. Holloway's. Below them in Ava's writing were 6 humble words. Different paths, same community.